Hi.
Jesus, it's day what 35. We're on day 35 here in California. It's nighttime over
Is
here,
it on?
huh?
It's only been day 35. Really?
Day 35.
Feels like forever.
That's like 12 years in internet age.
Sure.
Like you know how many memes have come by and died ever since this pandemic has started.
Millions, I would assume.
I don't know. I saw Tiger King memes. TikTok got really big
Mm,
because people had nothing else to do. I saw masks
right.
become a huge like hype beast kind of branding. Like it's like, oh, I have a Gucci mask. And I'm like, why? It's a mask.
Yeah. And then on the other hand, there's Florence Pugh just posting a lot of things on Instagram.
Like, what? Didn't she make marmalade one time? And then Paddington literally tweeted at her like, "Yo, let's make some together." And I thought this is the best collaboration since peanut butter and jelly.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't put those two
I would.
around the
I
same.
would.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But how's Japan? How's your Providence doing?
My Providence prefecture.
Oh, okay.
Jeez.
I don't know the Japanese government structure, constitution.
Um, the Constitution. It's fine. Things were starting to. Well, we should note that it's been a month since our last episode,
Yeah, it's been a while, honestly.
and a month ago, I think a lot of people were starting to die. A lot of confirmed cases were found in Tokyo and pretty much across Japan, and now things are relatively calm. Although I'm still very paranoid.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like at least with Japan, it's a smaller state, and I like what you told me. I heard they weren't that good. I'm like handling everything.
Yeah, at some point, I looked at the news and compared it to what the Agent Orange was doing, and I literally told I should stop saying literally, but I told several of my friends that Agent Orange was a far better leader than the Japanese Prime
In
Minister,
comparison,
and I still stand by it.
yeah.
In comparison, yeah,
How many? How much? This is a new topic I haven't talked about in a while. How many like Corona hoax deniers have you seen in your country? Is it
a
common?
lot.
Like I've seen people here say like, well, technically there's less deaths than the flu. Blah blah blah. Oh, the CDC is lying
Hmm.
about how many people have died. Blah blah blah. And it's like, what are you trying to prove?
I don't think it's just an American thing. It's worldwide.
Yeah,
You can see that
and
everywhere.
it's like, okay, they want to. I mean, at least for here, they're starting to like reopen the states. I think California's still gonna be locked
Hmm.
down for like till like fall, which I'm okay with. That's fine, but it's gonna be tough. A lot of
Hmm.
people like the South and like Texas and like New Jersey and stuff like that. They're like reopening, and they're like, we gotta get the
Yeah.
economic ball going. We gotta risk people's lives to keep the penny going. I'm like, that's literally how think about how like if we started coronavirus all over again, it started out with 10 people and it spread to hundreds of thousands. So then
Yeah.
if we shrink it down like we did right now, like what was it, flatten the curve, and then we're like, let's open it up again.
Hmm.
Isn't it just literally going back in time and letting it happen again?
Yeah. I mean, I think experts everywhere are even. I'm pretty sure Dr. Fauci has been advocating on television that there will be a second wave and a third wave, and people have to be prepared for that. And I guess those Texans and Georgians and whoever Orange County assholes are.
I was about to say Orange Countyans.
Yeah, they're not listening. They are willing to risk everyone's lives. So, I mean, what can you do?
Yeah, I mean, for some reason, along with like the Corona thing, I've been noticing like people have been criticizing 5G. Have you noticed that?
Yeah,
Is there like a
yeah.
that? Yeah, Yeah, for some reason, like I like whenever I see like people say like, yeah, Corona's a hoax, it's a fake. They want to make a vaccine that will hurt you more than the actual virus, and 5G will give you cancer. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. I get the Corona hoax. I get that argument you're trying to make, but 5G, I'm like, where did this come from?
I even heard in Japan, like, coronavirus is spread through 5G. I'm like, dude, that's
Because
no.
I've seen those people burn down 5G towers in Europe, and I haven't really heard anything about the United States burning their 5G towers. So I'm like, what's going on with Europe? Like, what are those people doing? Why do they hate 5G more than Corona? You know what I mean?
I
It's
have
like,
no idea.
and like I watched the movie recently about 5G, and they literally was like, oh yeah, 5G is really underdeveloped. Like it's really bad for your phone. It kills the battery, and you stand right next to the tower, and it's really expensive. So don't expect it soon. And I'm like, why are people like freaking out? Like I don't know. I'm more scared of like AI taking over than 5G. But yeah, 5G, Corona, and earthquakes.
Yeah.
That's and then those murder hornets. Have you seen those murder hornets lately? Have you seen them?
In general, like in my life.
Yeah, aren't they swarming in Japan? Like, aren't they a thing in Japan right now, or is that just the States?
Not right now. They start coming out starting July, I think. No, like July through September is the season. So yeah, I'm scared for that.
Yeah, that's terrifying. I saw this video where like one murder hornet went to a beehive, and it's like, oh, maybe it's gonna go there to steal the honey, and that's how nature works. No, it just grabbed bees, bit its head off, threw it on the ground, and it was like, okay, I guess I'm gonna keep doing this. And it's like, what? Why? Why you do? And then the next video shows like 100 bees attacking it, and they're like, yeah, get them, boys. And the murder hornet's like, oh god. And they're like, get out of here. You're in the wrong neighborhood. I'm like, what is going on? Nature is scary.
Oh, yeah. Yep, it's very scary. These are scary times. Desperate times.
But you know what's more dangerous than Corona, 5G, and murder hornets combined?
Xenophobia.
I was going to say witches and being kidnapped.
Oh.
If you said xenomorphs, that would have been more funny.
Xenomorph, yeah, the xenomorph is terrifying.
Yeah. It's like this xenomorph season has arisen. It's like, ah, damn, not again.
Yeah. Here comes the xenomorph season. Watch out for those aliens.
And my Patagonia trucker hat, I'm like, maybe I'm pro gun now. Maybe I'm pro flamethrower, actually.
And somebody's going to start uploading videos on how to kill xenomorphs. Be like, you should shoot them in the head. Like, no, don't do that. Dr. Fauci would be like, no, don't do that because the acid will come out and your head is going to explode.
And he's like, you got to wear lead helmets, okay? Lead masks, okay?
Yeah, make sure you have surgical masks.
Oh, yeah. That part I'll be like, what the mask gonna do against the xenomorph? Whatever. I don't know. I don't care. Point is, we have today's review. We got two distinctly different horror films from different generations.
Mm-hmm.
We got Eli Roth's Hostel, and then we got Luca Guadagnino's Suspiria 2018.
Mm-hmm. Yep, both very pointless movies.
Okay, well, we're going to look at Hito's opinion on Suspiria, which we both saw recently, and we thought, well, it's kind of spooky right now, so let's escape the world into a more spooky scenario. So
I'm not sure if spooky is the right word. Spooky is for, like, I don't know. Spooky is the word you use for describing supernatural things.
They're supernatural. Suspiria.
One of them isn't. Well, yeah, Hostel isn't.
I mean, Suspiria is the more supernatural, mystical one. Hostel is just, that's the definition of xenophobia.
Yeah.
So in our let's keep it solid and sweet. Suspiria. What do we think about it?
Well, first we should describe what this movie is about. I'm sure most people know it if you're a film fan, but do you want to describe this movie or?
Okay, well, so it takes place in the 70s, I believe. It's this American
1977.
1977, which I did some research. It was called the German Autumn.
Yes.
When it's when the Germans had recently occupied Berlin, or not Berlin. I'm stupid. It was
Yes, you are.
Was it Berlin?
It takes
Oh,
place
okay,
in
no,
Berlin.
no.
It takes place in, well, the movie takes place in Berlin 1977, but the 1977 in Germany was the year where so much shit happened. RAF, Army faction leaders and co-founders were not killed, killed themselves. There were a lot of bombings.
Yes.
And yeah, a lot of people died. It was a pretty significant year for Germany.
It was a bleak time. It was a few years before the walls had come down from the Berlin Wall.
Yeah.
And it's about this girl. She's American, played by Dakota Johnson. She got accepted to this prestigious ballet school in Berlin. And she goes there. She's thinking, I'm going to be the next Flashdance. I'm going to be the best dancer in the world. But then once she gets there, some spooky and unexplainable events begin to occur in that building. All of them being Tilda Swinton.
And it's a remake of Dario Argento's Suspiria, which is a very iconic, very influential giallo horror movie from 1977.
A cult classic, you might even say.
It's a horror classic. Like, you can't talk about horror movies without mentioning Suspiria.
Yeah, so the director of Call Me By Your Name, he's known for using a lot of like monochromatic colors, not too flashy, but it's very personal stories that have they're very emotional driven. I've read that he's done. He wants to evoke an emotion in you that's unexplainable. That's mainly through visuals and sound rather than just talking and action.
With this one or in general?
In general, I was
okay.
reading that he makes films that he wanted to feel when he was younger. So like for this film, he said he saw the original Suspiria when he was 14, and it evoked like a dreariness and a fear inside of him that he wanted to emulate in this movie.
Interesting. I never felt that.
Well, I don't know. He said like Suspiria, the original, like you have a lot of these primary colors that like emulates kind of like a fairy tale story, like a perverted fairy tale, you could call it.
Yeah.
And it makes you think like, okay, this is something I'm familiar with, but it's disturbing because one, the women falling down into barbed wire, that is terrifying.
Yeah.
Women just gained, well, what was the first death? Like some girl just got tossed out of a window. Like what was it? A glass broke on her.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just when you see it, like since it was like super stylistic, you're just like, oh my god, that thing is baked into my mind of how disturbing it is.
Yeah, the original is very much style over substance. It's very stylish. It's very colorful, exaggerated colors, weird camera angles. Goblin's score. The score is very distinct, and it's very cinematic. It's very visceral. And sure, there are things that don't make sense. Like there are moments in it where you feel like, how did that thing get there? Why is that thing? What is that thing? What are those and all that kind of stuff? But it doesn't matter because it makes sense within the context of that movie. And apparently Luca took that movie and made a movie completely unnecessary.
I don't know about that.
I hate this movie. If you don't know it already, I hate this movie so much.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought this movie did a really good job. It seems like it went the opposite route, like rather than use like overblown colors and weird architecture and strange camera angles, it takes a more contemporary, minimal, monochromatic like style, which focuses more on characters,
which makes things boring.
I don't know if boring is exactly the most. I don't think that's the best word to use for this. So slow
boring. So
I don't
dull,
know,
so slow.
I like it I like it though. It works. I think it
The
works.
original is 97 minutes long. It's a, high concept uh horror movie. Just it's a movie about a dance studio run by witches. Okay, great, done. That's the movie. This one, oh, there's the dance studio run by witches, and then there's also the lingering guilt of Nazi Germany, and then there's this other stuff about Bad Meinhof and RAF, and it's like, okay, movie, you don't need this, and it's
See,
2.5 hours long. It's like, come on, you need like 97 minutes, get it done.
I don't know. I feel like using this context of the school of witches, which I read an article about recently, and it was like a lot of neo giallo movies are critiquing how mothers used to be in the old Italian era,
Mm-hmm.
but then in this film, it re-examines how European politics have treated women. So then I thought, well, that's pretty brilliant. I'm like this movie uses Dakota Johnson to like kind of like her past is kind of vague, but it does like re-examine the effects of war and violence, probably through the witches. Oh yeah, spoiler, there's witches, and it kind of talks about how violence has affected these women through the interpretation of dance.
Sure, and if the film had focused just on that, it would have been great. But there's all this other historical bullshit that
Oh
doesn't
my
really
god.
add up. Like, it doesn't do, like, what does the Nazi Germany stuff and the Holocaust and Bad Meinhof have anything to do with a dance academy run by witches? Nothing. Like, they try to, this movie tries to be so serious and so self-important.
I will gladly disagree, but we are allowed to have minority opinions.
Well, tell me why you disagree, because I really don't see any connections
I think
between those things.
I think I think in the context of the movie, like because like when you have these horror films that take place during like a bleak background, like you could argue like, oh, the witch, it takes place during the Christian times when morals were low and everyone was like going crazy, like Salem witch trials. Okay, I get
Hmm.
that. We say Freddy Krueger times, like it's the 80s. You could argue like, oh, pedophilia is through the roof and the idea of family is being destroyed. Okay, I get the context of that. Scream, it's early 2000s. The fear of like communism, not communism, I'm wrong, terrorism, and everyone's worried like, oh my god, who could it be? Okay, I get the context of that. This movie grabs the like Berlin Wall esque imagery and uses it as like a side character. Like, okay, there's violence outside of this. There's weariness. There's fear of like our lives being taken away and destroyed. And then the movie uses the witches as like what's that term? As a like it's like like a mask. What's that term called? Something ophicis or something like that.
No idea. I don't know what you're going for.
Oh, it's like it means like a vessel of like pain and sorrow. It's using to guide these witches representing the pain. Like it's kind of like saying it's kind of like Dakota Johnson's like the new way of thinking versus the old witches who were like the violent and the old ways of thinking of like Nazi Germany and stuff like
Hmm.
that. And then she's like, you know what? I'm not gonna do this anymore. And then she opens her chest and then she kills all the witches. And it's like, wow, what a way to end a
But
movie.
then again, outside of that dance academy, there's all that shit happening, and it's like, it has nothing. Those terrorist attacks have nothing to do with the witches. Nothing. And then there's the German psychiatrist, who is waiting for his lover to come back. That that subplot is like, it's not necessary.
I don't know. I like it because it brings back the original actress as the wife.
Yeah, but that just feels like an excuse.
I don't know. I thought it was adorable. I was like, oh man, this is a nice way to bring her back. Like say, hey, we still appreciate you.
Yeah, but
Like maybe it's like a side plot to explain like, oh, like even though times are rough, we can still acknowledge the people who went through the pain. Which using the old Suspiria's actress, that could be like our way of saying like, oh, she's our gateway to the past. Saying like, yeah, we can still be happy together. You're one of the people that has gone through the tough times.
I think you were trying to make this more meaningful than it is.
I don't know. I like it for that way. It makes me think.
I mean,
This movie's definitely a thinking piece.
yeah, that's not what I want. Like Suspiria didn't need a remake or reimagining, in my opinion. Suspiria is its own thing, and I know that sounds like a very film school sort of snobby thing to say, but it's like no, Suspiria is fine
Yeah.
as it is. Like nobody needs to remake that. Nobody needs to retell that story. And Luca Guadagnino, who I think is a very sensualist filmmaker. Like if you mentioned Call Me by Your Name. Call Me by Your Name is a movie where you can smell everything. You can smell the sweat. You can smell the apricot juice. You can smell what the peach is doing. And this one, you don't feel anything. You don't smell anything. I mean, you could smell. You could kind of smell the dreariness, the rainy, sort of depressing atmosphere of it. But when the horror is happening, you don't really feel anything. And that sort of bombastic climax that you just mentioned, I think it's unintentionally hilarious. I was laughing so hard because I couldn't take that shit seriously.
I don't know. I don't know if say hilarious. I was a bit uneasy during that scene. Like the first like major death that involves dancing. That got to me. I was like, that is disgusting.
I'll say this: I think the actors are doing a very fine job. I think Dakota Johnson is good. Tilda Swinton playing multiple roles is
It's
yeah
pretty
is
good.
pretty good. And some the feminist stuff, motherhood stuff. Like sure, it's interesting enough. And Thumb York's score, I think, is very understated. But otherwise, this
It's
is
pretty
yeah, it's
good.
it's very good. But otherwise, this is a horror movie with no scares. Well, very little scares, and it's trying to be something that's meaningful when it doesn't need to be. If somebody like in the near future, like let's just say 10 years from now, somebody legit remakes The Terminator and releases it
Hmm.
and asks people, "Oh, please try not to compare it to the original." It's like, "No, that's impossible. Like how can you compare something that's so iconic? Like how can you not compare it to something so iconic? Like Back to the Future. There is a talk of remake. You can't not compare it to the original. It's Suspiria is that movie. You just not it's impossible not to talk about the original.
No, I see your argument, but we're allowed to disagree.
I hate this movie once again. I do not want to see this movie ever again.
I'll watch it with my mom because she wants to see it.
Yikes.
She's into movies like this. Like she likes like slow, spooky movies. She loved The Witch and Lighthouse. So,
Ugh. I you know what? I'd
uh,
rather rewatch The Lighthouse again.
see, Lighthouse is slow, and I'm surprised she liked that.
Yeah, The Lighthouse is interesting, whereas Suspiria is boring. At
Okay.
least with The Lighthouse, you can make up some crazy ass theory about what the lighthouse represents, as I did when I reviewed it. But with this one, it's so dour.
Speaking of dour, there's another movie that's I saw that's kind of very frontal face value and dour. No, I guess it involves our next film, Hostel, directed by Eli Roth, which I had to I watched twice actually recently.
Why?
Um, Funny story. I'm taking a horror class, and one of the movies I saw recently was we were talking about torture porn in our horror film class, kind of like Saw, Human Centipede, and that kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So then the first week I was like, "Oh, watch Saw," and I was like, "Well, I've seen Saw like 5 times. I already know the story. I already know what happens
Mm-hmm.
in it." So I thought, might as well watch Hostel. And then I was like, okay, I'll watch it. So I saw it on YouTube. I saw a version. I saw a free copy of it. I don't know how it's free. I saw it and I was like, wow, that movie does not make me feel good. And then next week they're like, okay, your movie of the week is Hostel. And I was like, oh wow, that's crazy timing. And after a while, I was like, I should watch it again. Maybe I didn't catch anything good the first time. No, still same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know it's like ideas of like, oh, it's how Americans are commodize the foreign landscape, and now when it happens to Americans, that's considered a horror movie. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how I feel. I don't know what I think about that. It's like it's a film for like it's like an hour of people being tortured for no reason, and it's like saying, "Oh, the rich are taking over and they're commodifying human lives," and it's like I don't know about that.
Yeah. I think people give Eli Roth too much credit.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a well-made horror film, considering it's more of a thriller than an actual horror movie. Like I don't know what nutrition Hostel ads and Horror Hostel 2 or the Unforgivable 3 nutritional value gives to the audience. Like, what does it convey to us? What's it trying to say?
Nothing. At least, okay. As much as I don't like Hostel and Hostel 2, I didn't know there was part 3. Um,
It's bad.
Hostel 2 kind of deals with an interesting idea. Like, it brings in this myth, the vampirism myth, that I thought was kind of interesting.
Yes.
Then again, everything else is just drenched in misery and gore and needless gore. And yeah, I hate it. I don't like. I hate Suspiria, but I hate Hostel has nothing to offer. That's why I don't even like talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I had to read articles about it where it's like, oh, what's our views about the death penalty and torture used in foreign affairs, and I'm like, that's interesting for a crime show maybe, and like
Yeah.
a TV show and stuff like that. But Hostel directly just deals with torture, and I think the mistake Eli Roth made with this movie is that, oh, I made up a fake country that doesn't exist as the country that kidnapped you, ha ha ha, and it's like, what does that what does that teach you subconsciously about traveling?
Right.
Because like in the movie, they go on vacation to a country, and they're like, "Oh, you should go to the city. It's has beautiful women. They love Americans, and they're gonna treat you well." And then the opposite happens. So then when people would travel abroad now, they're gonna if they see this movie, they're gonna think, "Oh, they're gonna kidnap me and torture me like Hostel." So no way, Jose. It's like that's subconsciously is teaching you if you most people are gonna see this movie at face value, and that's probably what they're gonna think about it first.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if people want to write articles about it and make analytical ideas about it, I get that. But then, as the average, horror movie consumer, this movie is like, what is it? What are you trying to say? As much as this movie is historically infamous, like that movie, I spent on your grave.
Mm-hmm.
I get why people write about it and why it changed the justification for women's violence in horror films,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't watch that movie. I legit cannot watch it. I don't know if I can ever watch that movie again the same way I can't watch Hostel again.
So you'd rather watch Hostel over I Spit on Your Grave?
I think I Spend Your Grave is way more intense
Oh yeah,
than Hostel.
it is very intense.
And like Hostel is like it's gory and stuff like that. But then it's like it's not smart. It's not smart horror. It's very lowbrow, low. What's that term called? Lowest common denominator of gross out horror.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, oh my god, she cut out the eyeball. But then I spend a grave. It's like, oh my god, a human right is being violated. So bad that I don't. It makes me feel icky inside.
Yeah. At least a spit on your grave has a point to make.
Yes, and then Hostel's like, oh, you should be afraid of traveling. I'm like, okay, I'm not going anywhere in the first place because if I cough, I'm gonna get arrested. Like,
I mean, yeah, right now, yes.
yeah, I had a friend in college. She was into the. She wore Doc Martens, had short hair, and she always said she was woke, and I was like, you're one of those people.
Yeah.
She would say, oh yeah, Eli Roth is my favorite director. He always makes intriguing ideas, and I was like, oh, I should check it out. So I saw Green Inferno, and I was like, what the what incarnation are you talking about?
Yeah.
I was like, what are you teaching me to hate minorities? Like, what's the point of this movie? Like,
Yeah.
are you saying American individualism is being destroyed by native tribes? Like, what are you trying to say, Eli Roth?
I don't know.
It's not my cup of tea, but that tea is a cup of cyanide, so I'm gonna stay away from it.
Yes. Yes. Very, very strong cyanide.
I think that's a good sentence to end this review on. A good cup of cyanide.
Yeah, so this was a very depressing episode.
I thought it was great. I was excited the entire. I was like, yes, I gotta talk about theoretical stuff.
Sure.
And talking to a microphone for the first time in a while has brought me more optimism in my life than sitting in a room eating popcorn and Gatorade has for the past few months.
A bit of a sad news. I don't know if you heard it or if you're a fan of her movies, but Lynn Shelton, who is a filmmaker based in Seattle, passed away today, May 17th, 16th.
I heard about it, but I wasn't really familiar with the work, so I wasn't entirely like, oh no, because I wasn't really familiar with her.
All right. She is one of my favorite filmmakers. I think she makes these very small scale indie movies about people chatting, well, human relationships. And there's this movie called Your Sister's Sister, starring Emily Blunt, which is really good, very heartfelt, very funny, and she had this great sensibility. Like, you can see any of her movies and you can tell that it was a work of someone who is genuinely kind and warm and smart and witty. And I'm very sad. I woke up to that news, so my day has been a bit depressing.
We dedicate this episode to her right now.
Yeah. And if you haven't seen her movies, watch Your Sister's Sister. It's really good. And there's this movie called Outside In, available on Netflix. That, I think, takes a very tricky subject matter and turn it into something quite lovely. And it's a huge loss for the Seattle filmmaking industry, and also filmmaking entertainment industry in general. She also directed a bunch of TV episodes: Mad Men, Fresh Off the Boat, Glow. There's this show called Little Fires Everywhere or something.
Yeah, I remember. That's a new show.
Yeah, so very prolific. Well, she's only made like 8 or 9 movies in like a 10-year span of her career. But yeah, I mean, apparently she was brought in by Marvel Studios when they were developing Black Widow. So
wow.
Yeah, her career, she was 54, way too young, passed away way too fast. Yeah.
Okay. But we'll end it on a high note, and we will both. Oh, I'm pretty sure you've seen it, but now I have to check it out now because it sounds like a very well-deserved filmmaker to be praised. So, Hito, Thank you for this great 2 year reunion after this horrible crisis, and bringing the critiques, the words, and the vibrant lifestyle of Hito.
Vibrant lifestyle.
Vibrant, yes, sir.
You make it sound like I'm a hippie.
Not what? What's wrong with the hippie? You're smoking a reefer joint right now as we speak.
Oh, I recently saw this movie called Inherent Vice, and there's this great line said by Josh Brolin saying, "You smell like a patchouli fart." That sums up everything I feel about hippies. All of them. You smell like a patchouli fart. But thank you, Ricardo, for bringing in your knowledge and your infectious smile.
Hey, no.
That most of you can't see.
That's because I'm in serious pain. Just kidding. I'm joking. But yeah. So thank our folks again for seeing another episode of Minority Opinions Podcast. Follow us on Instagram, which is Minority Podcast. No, sorry. Wait, what is it?
Is it really?
No, sorry. It's Minority Opinions Pod because Podcast is copyrighted. And follow us on Twitter as well. Is it still Minority O Podcast?
Just type in Minority Opinions Podcast and you will find it.
It's a cute little wildlife logo, and you'll see it immediately.
Yes. And you can send us a letter at minorityopodcast@gmail.com. You can let us know how wrong I am about Suspiria 2018. Or you can just wish us a good day. That works too.
Or you could send us your Venmo code to send us free money.
Sure. You can do that too.
That's Hito and Ricardo signing out now of Minority Opinions Podcast.
Bye.